How can Pete DeBoer get Roope Hintz and others to find their offensive rhythm in this series? How the Stars can attack Cale Makar in the big trio for Colorado, and keys to Game 2 tonight in Dallas. It's a Game 2 preview on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. The Stars look to level the series tonight after Colorado takes Game 1 in overtime by a final score of 4-3. And Pete DeBoer had some interesting words in his post-game presser that we have to touch on in today in relation to the Stars offense. And by offense, I mean anybody else other than Wyatt Johnston and Jason Robertson up to this point. I'll also talk about how the Stars can attack Cale Makar and some of the big names for Colorado. They have to be able to limit some of their chances here moving forward in the series. And then I'll have some keys for Game 2 tonight. Looking forward to Game 2 at the American Airlines Center. Thank you so much for joining me as always on Locked On Stars. Hit that notification bell. Never miss an episode as we ride this emotional roller coaster as the postseason wears on. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. So Pete DeBoer in his post-game presser after Game 1 basically came out and without using any names called out the Stars' top offensive forwards. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he mentioned that all the scores for Colorado ended up on the score sheet. MacKinnon with 2 points, Cale Makar with 3, Nichushkin with a goal and an assist. And he came out and said, we're still waiting for our scores to end up on the score sheet for a series and now a game. So he's obviously talking about Roope Hintz and Joe Pavelski. Tyler Seguin can even be thrown in there along with Matt Duchene. Who else can provide some consistent production other than Wyatt Johnston? Because right now, he's really the only one that's firing on all cylinders. And he did mention that throughout the year, if Johnston's line wasn't scoring, then it was Duchene's line. And if it wasn't that line, then Roope's line was providing some of that production. But right now, you're not really getting anything else other than Johnston. And we need to give Robertson his due credit as well, with how fantastic he's played so far through a series in a game now. But what was really, really intriguing was Pete DeBoer's answer to a question on Roope Hintz after practice on Wednesday afternoon. And the reporter basically asked the question like, hey, this doesn't really look like Roope Hintz. And I mentioned that, I want to say after Game 1 against Vegas. It may have been Game 2 that Roope just does not look 100%. And with him, it's a bit easier to tell because his game is just so reliant on that ability to just fly north and south. And you're just not getting that burst that you're accustomed to seeing. It's there in flashes sometimes, but you're just not seeing that burst. And he didn't necessarily answer the question directly, but said, hey, there's a story that I'm not going to get into. So there obviously is something there that I think is limiting Roope Hintz. And now that begs the question, well, then why is Roope playing the third most amount of minutes as a forward if he's unable to be 100% effective, or at least as effective as he can be as a player? Because what's not going to help the Stars in this series is Roope Hintz to have 1 point after 8 games. And it's not just Roope Hintz. And maybe his answer was to take some of the heat off of Roope. But you look at Pavelski with 1 point in 8 games. You can throw Seguin in there with just 3 assists. Duchene just has a goal and a couple of helpers. But you look at some of the numbers, plus minus 2, which isn't always a fantastic value to go off of a type of player that's having an impact. But Roope's a -4. Pavelski's a -1. Miro's a -7, and he has 6 points. So there's certainly something there that I think now warrants an answer to the question, then why is Roope playing, what is it? He's averaging over, I want to say 18 minutes a game, 18:35. And as I said, that's third most minutes of forwards on the Stars. So if Roope cannot be effective, or at least what they need him to be in order to beat Colorado, why can't Stankoven take a few more of those minutes? What about Jamie Benn? He's fresh and he's rocking and rolling. I think he could take an extra minute of ice time. Even Seguin and Duchene, because I think each player does sort of fall into some categories. Seguin has had a lot of looks. Duchene has as well. They just need to finish. I think execution is more their issue than generating chances. Pavelski, on one hand, it's generating chances. And maybe Roope falls somewhere in between those two categories. But I'm concerned if he is really limited to what he can do, does he really need to be playing upwards of 18 and a half minutes a night if he's not going to be effective? Because how he puts pressure on the defense is based on his speed. It's not, yeah, his skill is great, but all that kind of flows off of his ability to just gallop up and down the rink. And he's a responsible defender. I don't want to get lost in the weeds on all the other impacts he can have, but he's turning the puck over a lot more, especially in the neutral zone. He struggled a bit on his offensive zone entries, and you can just see the confidence isn't exuding out of him either. You look at that game 7 when Robo and him had that 2-on-1. I mean, he shoots that 100% of the time if he's firing in all cylinders. No way he slides that back across to Robo. And he doesn't hit the net late in the third period of game 1. He did draw that hooking penalty and then the embellishment call, whatever that embellishment minor was. I frankly don't understand, but that's in the past now. So how can Pete DeBoer use Roope to his advantage to some degree? Maybe you got to shave some minutes away and give Stankoven some more. Use your depth, right? Your fresh young legs. Craig Smith, who's just playing over 11 minutes a night, maybe give him a few extra shifts. And he doesn't need to be playing 16 minutes, but maybe he plays 12 to 13. And maybe you can find some different spots for him to work into. And I'm sure Pete DeBoer is trying to find a way to make it all work. Look, he jumbled up all the lines in game 1 in the third period just to try to conjure up something. Unfortunately, you hope you wouldn't have to do that. You would like to not have to mix up the lines to get some juice in the lineup for an offense that has been really, really good throughout the season. But I think that's the amount of pressure Colorado puts on you too, because they're very dangerous and they can strike quickly, as we saw. Some good news, some more positive news coming out of practice is Marchment seems to be getting really, really close. And DeBoer said he will more than likely be a game time decision tonight. I think that could be huge, because what the Stars really lacked in game 1, and maybe I didn't sell this enough, what was their forecheck? Just not a ton in the way of a really heavy forecheck that we saw against Vegas for the majority of the series. And I think fatigue certainly had something to do with it, but a heavy forecheck that's forcing Colorado to defend with numbers, put the pressure on, and create some turnovers that way. Colorado is really good with the puck. I mean, their defensive pairings are much stronger than what Vegas was deploying on an every night basis. So Dallas is going to have to be really hard and fast to lose pucks and to just pressure their defensemen into making negative plays, because if Colorado can get out of their zone cleanly and then create off the rush, that's when they're going to be very, very dangerous. And Marchment coming back, I think, could be huge for Dallas, and it may drop everything else back into order. Unfortunately, you really haven't been able to play the same trios as you did in the regular season, but Colorado's also not doing that with Duran out and others, of course. So it's all about finding something that works for you in the moment. And I'll give Pete DeBoer credit. He's made a lot of the right moves, and I'll continue to trust him with those moves. But at the end of the day, too, how much can Pete DeBoer really do at the same time? Like, at some point, they got to find the net. At some point, you need them to execute. And if you look at the expected goals percentage for trios that have at least played 30 minutes this postseason, the Stars' best trio is Ben Johnston and Stankoven at 65.3%. And they've had to kind of get away with that or get away from that because Roope and Pavelski and others just really aren't hitting their stride. Look, you look at Seguin, Duchene, and Dadonov. That's your second highest expected goals percentage at 52.8%. So your top line with Hintz is just not effective, not being as effective as you would like. And Robertson is really the lone winger that's been able to do some damage. And of course, he's second on the team here in points through the first 8 games with 6. But you look at Pavelski, who is the second regular season scorer for the Stars, and you're not getting much out of him, unfortunately. And he's been in the fold a bit more here over the last few games. You just hope he starts having an impact, though. They need him to start having an impact. And maybe this series is going to be really tough. Look, it's going to be fast. I don't think it's going to be as physical as we saw in Vegas. And, of course, the style can change as the series moves along. But from what we saw in Game 1, it's just going to be kind of free-flowing, a little more ice to use, a little bit more space to maybe be creative. And also just a lot more room to make plays. And a real concerning thing after Game 1, too, was when Dallas was trying to make a push. I want to say it was a combined 13 shots from the second period to overtime. They're only able to muster up that amount of shots against an Avalanche team that I wouldn't say is maybe as defensively responsible as Vegas. That's just not going to cut it. You have to be able to get more shots on Georgiev, and the possession numbers too were kind of alarming to some degree, just with the way the Stars are usually a heavy puck possession team. Those all favored Colorado. But I will say, Stars are going to have to transition and get a feel for this Colorado team, and they're going to play much better. I'm not worried about that. They're going to play a much better game than they did in Game 1 outside of the first period. I truly believe that. They have a lot better in them. So let's segue into trying to attack Cale Makar and others for Colorado, because Pete DeBoer also mentioned sort of a strategy to try to limit those big names, and maybe it's a star you're familiar with because he's been such a great fit. I'll tell you more here on the other side in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Indeed. There is no I in team, but there is an I in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is a hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed is a powerful hiring tool that can help you do it all. We streamline hiring the powerful tools that find you match candidates, and also over 80% of employers get quality candidates with Instant Match, whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to US Indeed data. So go ahead and join the over 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Once again, terms apply and conditions apply as well. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Okay, so Pete DeBoer also mentioned something out of practice on Wednesday about Chris Tanev trying to at least trying to match him up against MacKinnon and company here throughout the series. And look, we've talked about it a ton for the last few weeks, how the Stars are deploying 5D on a regular basis, and you were hoping with that 3-0 lead in game one, oh, maybe you can get Lundqvist, maybe you can sneak him in here for 7 minutes tonight and give some guys some rest. But of course, Colorado strikes a couple times on the power play, and that is kind of thrown out the window with the way they're deploying Niels. I want to say, and I'll make it more clear because I want to reiterate it again. Pete DeBoer doesn't have much of a choice. I don't think he has another defenseman he can go to. And right now, I think they feel Niels is their 6th best defenseman. I don't think they want to play Pouliot, who was recalled from Texas in round 1. And this is what they're going to have to work with, because Lundqvist is going to be overwhelmed. He's just not ready. And of course, they don't have time for that. They can't worry about it. But I've also brought it up so many times. How sustainable is this going to be? And he talked about having Tanev kind of play straight up against the MacKinnon line a bit more. And I'm wondering if Pete tries to give Tanev and maybe Lindell, who are their shutdown pairing, some more minutes. I'm intrigued to see if what we saw yesterday with Lindell playing more minutes than Heiskanen, and maybe this is just anecdotal evidence from game 1. But maybe it's something we see a bit more here in this series, where Lindell and Tanev get a few more minutes per game to take some of the heat off Miro and Harley. Because I think Miro is going to need a little time. Just a little time to recover a bit more as the postseason wears on. And I understand the argument, well, you don't have time for that, but maybe if you could drop Miro down, because he's playing 27 minutes a game. If you could drop him down to maybe 24, maybe give Tanev and Lindell, who they trust obviously as that shutdown pairing, to play up against some of the big guys for Colorado who had an impact, just to take some of the pressure off Miro and Harley. And of course, you can still work that rotation around and pick your spots. It's hard to do because Miro obviously is a world-class player, but if you're killing him on most nights, it makes it really difficult for him to be effective. And DeBoer also answered the question, like, I don't really think it should be much of a story, because Miro played just as many minutes as, Makar and Taze did last night. Well, Miro also had to play a 7-game grueling series against Vegas. Meanwhile, Makar and Taze had 5 games against a Winnipeg team that they absolutely boat raced. And they had 6 days off of rest. That's a lot different than what Miro had been stepping into here in round 2. So I'm wondering if that's something we're going to see more as the series goes along. Maybe Tanev and Lindell maybe not play more, but maybe the minutes start to level off a bit, because I think they played fantastic. I think they've been great. Of course, you want Mir out there in big situations on the power play, of course, and him and Harley can do their thing. But I think when it comes push to shove facing MacKinnon and his trio, throw out Tanev in there and maybe give Miro some rest in some occasions. And you're going to need him in the last 5 minutes. Okay. I'm not saying he should never play against them, but maybe you can start to level some of those minutes, somewhat like we're talking about with Roope. Maybe he's dealing with something. Maybe you need to shave some of his minutes off so he can be more effective as the series wears on. Because, I mean, the Stars are right in this thing. I don't want to go all panic mode here entering game 2. Still very, very confident with what the Stars can achieve, because that's not the best version of Dallas in game 1. But they also need some help offensively, and they're going to have to find a way to limit some of Colorado's zone time. As I alluded to at the end of segment 1, Colorado had a lot of sustained O-zone time, and maybe that wears on a team, even if it didn't generate a ton of looks, especially in that first period. But the Corsi percentage numbers and the way that Colorado was getting pucks on net and getting to the front of Otter, it was a huge advantage for Colorado in game 1. And the Stars need to find a way to kind of flip the ice or tilt the ice in their direction, which I think they can do. One reason why is faceoffs. We talked with Chris on our Stars Avs preview here a few days ago, and he mentioned, Dallas is going to cream the Avalanche in the dots. And they did. I think they won 55% in game 1. But Colorado really dictated play. They had the puck more, and they controlled tempo, and they controlled the pace of the game. Dallas needs to get back to their puck possession game here. In game 2, I think the crowd is really going to be rocking here tonight, and maybe that encourages the boys on a bit more, because they didn't give them a whole lot outside of the first period to get up and at them for. So I think you're going to you're going to see a much different a mindset and approach from period 1 to 2 to 3 here tonight, because they know what has to be done. And I said it after game 1, I don't think they can crawl themselves out of a 2-0 hold this go around. Going to Colorado with an altitude in game 3, even though they're a very, very good road team, that's a tough task to do it over again. Let's level the series and then take our chances in Denver. But going down 2-0 to an offense that is so potent and is going to get their looks in the series, because look, they'll probably combine for 4 or 5 goals and probably more. That's maybe underselling them. But if there's some games where you can just completely shut them down, it helped to stay out of the box. Dallas is going to be just fine in this series. Game 1 was weird. It felt like a feeling out process. And I think as the series wears on, both sides are going to understand how one another wants to attack each other. And maybe it gets to a point where it's a more comfortable game for Dallas. And then they can start picking their spots here and there and figure out a way to dispatch a very good Colorado team. Never was going to be easy. That's for sure. Never going to be easy. So extremely excited, I should say. Looking forward to game 2 tonight and how the series progresses. Let's finish up with keys to game number 2, Dallas versus Colorado. Stars looking to level the series and at least split at home at the AAC. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. What are you waiting for? While you're taking in the postseason this spring, the Mavericks, unfortunately, lost game 1 in their round 2 series, but they're right back at it tonight again against OKC. The Stars are looking for the Stanley Cup. I want to say they had the 4th best odds as of Tuesday night. Of course, odds are subject to change. Sprinkle some money on the Mavs and Stars to win this series, this round series. You maybe get some good odds right now after losing game 1. And as I mentioned, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Get in on the action this postseason. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Alrighty, my number 1 key for tonight, and this is a really, really easy one. Stay out of the damn penalty box. Especially stay away from taking penalties 200 feet away from your own net. Do not allow Colorado to get a little spark, especially if you're able to work yourself into a lead like we saw in game 1. The also interesting fact coming out of this season series in general through 5 games now, I want to say, including the regular season, who's ever scored first has not even won. No team between Dallas and Colorado has won scoring first so far in this season series. Also, a nugget was Pete DeBoer is 0-5 in the Dallas Stars era in game 1s. Because I kind of came to that realization last night. Like, it seems like they're always losing the beginning of series. They just, for some reason, fall in game 1s, and they have to find a way back and crawl themselves out of a hole. Unfortunately, that's certainly not the way you would like to draw it up. Key number 2, and I mentioned it earlier, forecheck. Forcheck with some physicality. Just get on this Colorado defense. I thought the Avs defense was real active. They were engaged. Samuel Girard was someone that really stood out for me in game 1. Just they found a way to create a lot of time and space for themselves, and they are able to get shooting lanes with their movement, along with Taze and Makar. Have to forecheck really, really heavy tonight. Would love to see them kind of get back to a more physical, gritty style of game and really force Colorado to defend a lot harder than they had to in game 1. I think that is something that it takes no effort, or not no effort, but takes no skill, no talent level in that. If Dallas can find their legs here in game 2 and just stack shift after shift, they weren't really able to turn some momentum outside of that first period in game 1. They're gonna need more of that as the series wears along, and I think Dallas will be just fine tonight. If you stay out of the box, you just forecheck hard and heavy, win some of those loose puck battles. Those 50-50 pucks, just not a ton of energy and juice. Get back to that style of game. I think Dallas will be just fine. I did mention it in the game 1 post-game episode. I have a nice feeling about the Stars side. I feel like, hey, they're gonna be good. Didn't feel that way after dropping the first 2 to Vegas, but my confidence level is still about a 92%, because if Roope or Joe or anybody else starts to get a rhythm, go, ooh, look out. But it has to happen first. I can acknowledge that. It certainly has to happen. So looking forward to a game 2 at the American Airlines Center. Have a ball if you're headed to the AAC tonight, all you Stars fans. Get the boys rocking and rolling tonight. It's on us a bit too, but they have to give us something to be excited about. But let's get the boys going off the hop here, and let's jump back in the series, head into Colorado for game 3 tied, and then the best team on the road in the NHL can take one in Denver, maybe 2. Now that would be something. Have a great Wednesday. Not a Wednesday, a Thursday. Who knows what day it is? Okay, it's the last few weeks have been a total blur. The only days we know are when there are games. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I know I say it every episode, but thank you guys so much. Support has been phenomenal. Just the engagement, just following along all season, but really specifically the postseason too. It's just been phenomenal, and the channel continues to grow. And it does not go unnoticed because without you guys, obviously, just talking to a microphone. And I really appreciate everybody engaging, especially in the comment section. Let me know your observations. Maybe there's something I'm not harping on enough. Maybe I need to harp on Hintz and company a bit more. I need to be a bit stricter on my takes with them. But yeah, follow Locked On Stars on Twitter. Follow Joey the Jet 19 as well. Enjoy Thursday. Enjoy Game 2 tonight, and hopefully an episode tomorrow morning. We are celebrating a Game 2 victory. That'll do it for today's episode. Once again, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.